Hello? Can you hear me now? I hope you can hear me now. Can you hear me now? I'm waiting for a response from Lucy. Yay! Okay, I was sure I had done that prior to coming live, but obviously I hadn't. I got the camera working, but I didn't have the microphone working. Apologies about that. What I was saying was, hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well tonight. It's been a funny old week for me personally. Lots of stuff happening. But it's been good though. Getting lots of things off my to-do list, which is good. Which is always good. I was painting a fence and everything at the weekend. I was very busy. So I hope you're all doing well. In terms of what we're going to be looking at tonight, if all goes well, we are going to be looking at more of the VS Code extension for Cake. I made some progress. Hope no. So what Maurice is alluding to there is that Friday of last week we released a new version of Chocolatey Central Management, so CCM 040, including the ability to do scheduling of deployments. So that was shipped. To the best of my knowledge, there have been no bugs reported on that release, so fingers crossed that it's all good and folks are using it. We also shipped more access to the CCM API. So if you're looking to automate some more of the processes around CCM, you can now do that through the API that we expose. And Maurice is saying he's installed it, so it at least installed. So that's the first part. Hello, Kim. How's it going? We also in open source land, we also shipped a release candidate for the 1.0.0 release of Cake. So if you haven't played with that yet, there's a new release candidate for you to play with. I can also access. Oh, that's even better, Maurice. So you've installed it and you can access the web interface. So you should see a new API node on the bottom left there, and you should also now be able to schedule deployments. Not at my best, but getting there. That's kind of how I feel, Kim. I don't know what it is today. I feel a little bit meh, but I hope you feel better soon. So what I was going to say was that through the week, I have made some progress on the old Cake extension for VS Code. No, I don't think it's anything COVID related. Just, I don't know, lots of stuff happening, getting lots of things done. And today, I just feel tired today, to be honest. Looking forward to getting to my bed, if I'm honest. It's been a long day. So what I did through the week was I have now extended the install a bootstrapper option for Cake within VS Code to do more stuff. So that more stuff, there's now 6 options in here for installing a bootstrapper. You've got the option to install the .NET Tool Runner PowerShell, .NET Tool Runner for Bash, .NET Framework Runner, .NET Framework Runner for Bash, .NET Core Runner for PowerShell, .NET Core Runner for Bash. So basically, all the things are now available for downloading. So the work that we did on the resources repository, so maybe let's just bring that up. I don't know, we never got to that during the stream last week, but if we look at Cake Build resources, you can see now that we've split it out now. So there's now a .NET Core folder, a .NET Framework folder, and a .NET Tool folder. So the bootstrappers for each of those now exist here. Now, these bootstrappers are not particularly exciting right now. They're basically stubs for doing stuff. But those files exist. The necessary redirects have been put in place in the Cake Build website. So now in VS Code, when you attempt to download one of those, so for instance, let's just do the install bootstrapper of the .NET Tool Runner, it'll ask me to overwrite it, and when it does that, and when it saves, it'll literally just be essentially be an empty file. There's nothing in it. And that's the exact same thing for if I install a bootstrapper for .NET Core, then it's essentially an empty file. There's nothing in it. The only one that really has any content is the original bootstrapper for .NET Framework. Oh, hold on. I missed some announcements there. Dev lead, also known as Mateus, resubscribed with tier 1 sub. It's saying 0 months in a row, but Maurice is also confirming that that's 19th. That's a long time. Thank you for your continued subscription, Mateus. I appreciate it. Happens every time. Oh, sorry to hear that, Kim. I hope you feel better soon. So the work that was done like Tuesday, Wednesday, I think, did that work. So like I say, the install bootstrapper has now got all the things in it. Now the expectation is that the bootstrappers in here will literally be it will literally be .NET Tool Restore, .NET Run effectively, or Cake, .NET Cake. So there won't be much to those bootstrappers, but they're placeholders for providing that functionality. So with that in mind, I then during the week did some digging into what was then needed to make things like the, if I go to this version, to get things like the code lens functionality here working, as well as digging into how the configuration works for debugging in general. So I did some of that digging, but Nils, I don't know if Nils is in the chat room, I've just seen him pop in. Nils must have also been grokking or digging into the same code base, because he's now put in a PR into here. So the focus of the start of tonight is going to be having a look at what Nils has put forward in this PR, and hopefully getting that merged in. See a few people, other folks joining in the chat room. So hello to everyone who's all. Nils joined. Patrick's in the house. We have to behave now because can't do things that we're not meant to anymore for the Cake project since Patrick's in the house. And Nils is saying he needed the distraction. Well, you're more than welcome if working on this project helps with a distraction. I'm more than happy for you to jump in. We have a parrot in the room. I mentioned that. I did mention that the RC has shipped. So if you haven't played with it yet, it's available on NuGet. So NuGet all the things. So you'll find. Let's just go to cake.tool. So cake.tool has the latest version is now available. 1.0.1. It's getting hard to say that one. 1.0.0 RC1001. So it's available. It's available everywhere as that. And just in the last couple of days, Patrick has been updating Cake.frosting to bring it into. It's like the last thing on the 1.0.0 milestone for Cake itself, is to have synergy between the Cake.tool, Cake.exe, and Cake.frosting. So yeah, definitely grab it while it's there. Feel free to reach out if there's any questions for that. But it does bring things like, so there's a whole list of them here, but it does have support for .NET 5 as well as C# 9, I want to say. So things like records, if you're using those, you can use them within your Cake scripts as well. Kim saying he doesn't like hot cake. Love it. So kind of part of this whole, so Pascal's been working on the documentation for the website, and the whole kind of idea is to bring together all the different components of Cake ready for this 1.0.0 release. So that's kind of why I've been working on the Cake extension for VS Code to bring that together. So our recommendation going forward, obviously, is that Cake.tool is the way to go if you're looking for the scripting approach. So that's why I'm trying to change some of the defaults in the Cake VS Code extension to make use of those. And there's a link there to something. Is that safe for work? I'll go and click it on it. What? I must have missed some context there, but I'll bring it in anyway. Cake. Oh, remote control. I'm going with RC remote control. As they say in Germany, C#9. There we go. I think he's referring to the 9 as in the numeric 9, and it's a play on word. I think it's what he's up to there. But yeah, C#9 is now supported in the cake scripting. There we go. Right. Anyway, so like I said, Nils has put in a PR, and I haven't looked at this yet. So I was going to take a look through this and see if I can jump into Nils's head and see if we can figure out what his suggestions here are. So, hello, Jan. Jan is jumping in too. So, what were we doing? Yes, so there was 2 issues that Nils is looking to tackle with this. The first is that the first one was allow for files other than build.ps1 or build.sh. Now, what this is referring to is that if I attempt to run this task, let's do this. Let's get rid of this file, and let's get rid of this file. So within my build.cake file, if I do this, I've just debugged within a debug. That's not what I want to do. This is still the extension host. Yes, if I go here and I say cake, then no, what's the one I want? One I want is if I say run task, then I look at cake, then it'll tell me what task I got available. So if I attempt to say run default, it's going to fail because the built-in task runner within the built-in task runner for cake within VS Code is going to attempt to find a build.ps1 file. Now that obviously won't work because based on my repository here, I don't have a build.ps1 file. If I also try to run this, it's going to fail for the same reason because build.ps1 doesn't exist in this context, so it's not there. So it will fail as well. Related to that, if I say, so it eventually filled there, filled? It eventually failed there. If I attempt to do a debug task, it will fail for a similar reason. So it's going to attempt to do some stuff which, this might work actually, but we also don't want it to work, or not like this. So a couple of things it did there is that clicking on this task ran the related command, which is to download the debug dependencies. So the debug dependencies are the cake.core CLR package, which was originally how we did debugging within VS Code. So we kind of don't want that to happen anymore. And the other thing is that it just doesn't work effectively. So what we need to do for both of these code lenses is to fix that problem. There are 2 distinct problems, but they're kind of related. So what Nils is attempting to do here is so this one was making a request for the build.ps1, the hard coding of the build.ps1 to be configurable. And then there's a related issue. And that's okay, Nils. It's fine. Don't worry. What you're looking at here, I think, is one half of the problem, and then there's another one. So it comes down to the way that VS Code works. So when you're just running a task, there's a way of doing things. And when you're trying to debug a task, there's another way of doing things. So there are 2 distinct things, but they're intermingled in how the extension works. So I think if I haven't, like I say, I haven't looked at it properly, but I think what you're doing is half of it, and then there is some other work to finalize all the pieces. And like I say, the movement of that to look at a .NET tool way of doing things is the right approach. So we're good, right? So let's have a look at this and see what's going on. So I'm going to come back to the documentation because I don't want to look at that just yet. So this is adding, so into the package.json file it is where we define what configuration we allow to be set. So in here, a new piece of configuration, which is the build script, which defaults to null, is being set. So I think I'm good with that. So then within our main entry point for the extension, we are importing get extension settings and iCodeLens settings and an iTaskRunner settings from the file that is extension settings. Okay, fine. We're changing away from a VS Code workspace get configuration to get extension settings. So that's the same there and there. Rather than making this any, we're making that more specific, which is the TaskRunner settings. So that feels like it's okay to me. And then rather than doing get TaskRunner config, we are using that same function that was get extension settings and specifically getting the task runner. Okay. And then we're building a new constant, which is build command base, which is config build script OS platform. So it's looking for that as so I'm assuming that there is some ability to either set that or not set that. So we either have a OS specific build script based on the operating system that we're on, or we use the default. Okay. And then using that build command base, we are building up the build command and then passing in the target, which is, so this is looking specifically at the run target, or the run task, sorry. So this makes sense so far. And then we remove the functions that were get CodeLens config and get TaskRunner config. So I'm going to assume that they're going to come in with this then. So rather than put them there, we're going to use get extension settings CodeLens debug task. And again, that's being made more specific. Okay, so far so good. Then into the run task command, we're passing in the iExtension settings and making that a replacement for run config rather than that. And then within my build command, we are saying, again, if there is an OS platform, otherwise use the default. And then the build command is equal to that constant, passing in the file name, passing in the target. So rather than hard coding, so we're essentially removing, this was the part that was causing the problem originally, because we were allowing, or we were hard coding it to be build.ps1 or build.sh. Which was causing problems for folks, because some folks were, rather than calling them build.ps1, they were calling them dev.ps1 or something else. So this opens up the possibility to make that something other, which is fine. Okay, so that looks good to me. And then this is the thing that is now being passed into various places. So in here, we are looking at iTaskRunner settings. So I'm going to assume that these are the things that exist in the package.json file for the task runner, and then a similar one for settings for the bootstrapper. So these are the ones I just added in during the week. So these are things that you can override if you choose to. So that makes sense to me. And then there's an iConfiguration settings, which is a off the top of my head, I'm not sure what that one is. And then there is an interface which is the iCodeLens debug task settings. So there's a really here. Not sure what that is. We'll come back to that one. So this is part of the other half of the CodeLens is that this by default we want to change. We're going to want to change the default for this to move away from Mono or Core CLR. We're going to want that debug task to use the global tool as well. So that's part of the other scope of work. So that's the config settings. This is the iCodeLens settings. Verbosity. Okay. And the extension settings are then a combination of all of those things. Okay. So then when we say get extension settings, we get the cake config from the package.json file, and then we cast that as an instance of the iExtension settings, and then the task runner is just an instance of that. Okay, that makes sense. Extend cake.taskrunner.build script here, because the default of default Win32 cannot be part of the VS internal settings defaults, or else the platform specific settings can never be overridden, i.e. Win32 will always be set. Okay, so what we're saying is that the constant default script is going to be build.sh. Let build script be the task runner build script. If it's not anything, then we set up the defaults. So the default becomes the default script, which is that. So this is, okay, that makes sense. And then the Win32 version becomes PowerShell execution policy build.ps1. Okay, fine. Make sure that they're always a cake.taskrunner build script.default, even if it's not in the settings. Okay. Fine, default script. And then we return that. Okay, so I think I'm okay with that so far. So if we go back to the documentation, it says cake.taskrunner.build script, the name of the build script to run when running a task. This is a complex object consisting of at least one property, default, and optionally properties corresponding to values of OS platform for non-default values specific to different platforms. Default is null, which is equal to specifying build.sh and the Win32 version build.ps1. Okay. While the command to debug a task is configurable using that setting, there is no specific setting for configuring the command to run a task. For this case, okay, that makes sense to me. Okay, so if I go back to the comments in here, I wanted to check what this was saying. This PR makes configuration of the build script for the run task command and for the CodeLens possible. Currently, both are fixed to build.sh for non-Windows and PowerShell for Windows. Using this modification, it is possible to have different configurations for the build script using a default value and also for platform-specific values. The current build script, as given in the code, would translate to the following setting of okay. However, if it was set in package.json, the setting would always contain the value for Win32, therefore the value of is null. Okay, that makes sense. For example, an alternative configuration could be to use default of .NET Cake, and then if we're running specifically on a Mac and we want to do something different, we could use build.sh. Using the .NET Global tool for all platforms except OS and macOS in which the build would be used. Makes sense? Default is a required property and will always be set. Fine, while the other properties of the Cake build script should correspond to one of the values of OS platform. Okay, I think I'm okay with all of that. I think that makes sense to me. So, if I were to do GHPR list, is it script or launch command? It's not. It's not a launch command. It's literally running the task. So let's maybe just do git pr checkout of 436, and we'll take a look, and we'll have a play with it. So if I close this one down, so I'm back over here and I say F5. So let's launch the extension host again. So if I attempt to do the same thing, build script, confusing name. Well, let's see what it does, and then we'll decide on that. So the default, I haven't set anything with regard to build script in my package.json. So if I just hit, if I click on this run task again, okay, so let's slow down and let's just play with it. Let's test it out first, and we'll see. Naming's hard, so let's come back to that. So as of right now, nothing's changed from a functionality point of view, because the default is still to run PowerShell with build.ps1, and because I don't have one, it's not worked, right? However, what we want to be able to do, or what we should be able to do now, is if I go into settings here, I should be able to change that. That's certainly a possibility, Joel. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm more interested in testing out the functionality, if I'm honest, just now. So I'm going to say open user settings, and I'm going to look at the. So if I search here, I should be able to see cake stuff, and I should be able to look at the task runner side of things. And in here, I've now got this thing. So, based on the documentation that we read, I should be able to do stuff here. So if I use this example, I should be able to do this, I think. So if I come in here and I say paste and close that out and save that, time to adopt NDD name driven. Can you imagine the amount of procrastination that would happen if that was the no, just no. So now if I come back to here in my build.cake file and I say run task, now it should invoke .NET Cake with script, and now it should do stuff. So it's now working. So that is a step in the right direction. I like that already. So that was running the tweet cake contrib. So if we add another one in here, let's add another task in here with an action, and we'll call it Bob. And Bob is just going to do information Bob, right? If I save that and I say run this task, I'm always anxious when I try and code live, Nils. So, but no, I'm so far so good. I'm liking this. So if I do that, and then if I come up to here and I say run task again, and I get a list of all the available tasks for cake, then I should be able to run Bob again, executing task.NET Cake with target Bob. See what that does. What's that doing? Oh, no, it is. It's off and running. It's off to the races. And what we should see. No, I think it is working. It was just a little bit slower to run. I think. Terminal will be reused by tasks. Press any key to close it. I think it's just being invoked slightly differently. Does it work when you rename the build.cake? To rename this to be something other, you mean? So if I rename this to be Bill. So if I say run task here, it seems to work there. Yep. Oh, hold on. Oh, hold on. Bill run Bob. Yeah, Bill run Bob didn't work. It says it was going to try it, but then it didn't. So that part didn't work. And if I come to here and I say task, run task, cake run Bob again, go away. So, and that didn't work either, I don't think. Cake run Joe. I guess that is an issue with it, or certainly a possibility. So if we go back to what that's trying to do there, then so the code that was being modified here was in the cake run task command. Cake run task command. It said it was going to do the right thing, but didn't. So let's set a wee breakpoint here. Let's try this one first. So cake run, so that's from CodeLens. So let's try that one first. So we're still in build.cake and we want to run Bob. That's a good question. But we should, the new documentation helps with that regard. So if I go to the documentation and I say running builds using runners, that is .NET tool, I should be able to see so that's just what we're debating. That's just what we're debating, Patrick. I think that is the heart of the issue. So looking at this, yes, the script should be the first argument, not a named argument. So I think part of the issue here then is we go back to here, then this is no longer correct. Oh, counting. Great fun. No need to apologize. I think I've deleted too much stuff there, have I? I think what we want to do is just pass in the file name. The build command, well, you see, I guess it comes down to what we want the default to be. And that, I think we're just coming to the same talking point, Nils, is that if so, what it comes down to is what do we want to support out of the box, and are we okay with breaking stuff, or do we want to move more of this into configuration? What does yes mean, Matthias? What are you saying yes to? I think I said a few things there. Or were you referring to what Kim said in the chat? Breaks. So in the brave new world of the bootstrappers that we were envisioning creating for .NET Tool and .NET Core, then they weren't going to have a script argument. But if we look at the existing bootstrapper for .NET Framework, then it does have the build script. And ultimately that's passed in into cake.exe. So bootstrapper for .NET Framework. But it also doesn't have a script argument. So looking at this, oh no, that's just adding the script in. I see. But config could include ... script. You're talking about the package.json, adding it to the package.json file. As in whether to add that or not? Is that what you're getting at there? I'm not sure how much of a delay we've got today. Nils is saying not sure if that would work because you would need to close that off as well. So it becomes more complicated with that, I think. So what we're saying there is potentially, or so what you're getting at there, Matthias, is that in the next round of updates to the resources, we simply remove this. And just have it as a, well, if we don't have it though, how would we pass it through? I'm not against removing it, I'm just a bit concerned that we break something without the ability to re-enable it. So hard keeping everybody happy, it really is. We'll look at cake build.ps1, we just proxy the args. So github.com/cake build/cake. Let's find out, shall we? So args is just collected there. Is that just unnamed and on? Does that just flow through? Does that just automatically flow through? Is that just magic? But no, it's hard coded there. So what did you tell me to look at? We'll look at cake build PS1. We just proxy the args. Oh no, we just hard code it. Can't always make everybody happy, as long as you and the team are happy with the changes. And I think that's where I'm coming to be honest, Maurice. So let's have a wee search for -- script. There's at least one other place, which is here. Where are you? What are you? Oh no, that's in myself, so that's fine. So that was the only place that it's doing that. So okay, let's just put the file name in with the target and the verbosity. Let's do that. And the other place that we needed to look at was in the main.ts. So in here, cake in yes. What was this doing? In here, we were then playing with. Oh, we weren't passing the script there at all. Oh, we weren't doing it there. So that should work there then. Okay, so let's try this. Let's run this again. So let's see if Bill can call Bob again. So it's thinking. Activating extension. Right. So let's see if Bill calls Bob. So at this point, build command, when we step over it, so we look, comment that. So build command is going to be called .NET Cake, passing in build.cake, target Bob, verbosity normal. And that should work. And it ran Bob. And then if we come up here and we run a task and we run Bob, as we no longer need to bootstrap modules, we can pass all args. As we no longer need to bootstrap modules. Not sure I follow what you're thinking there, Matthias. This one is failing for other reasons, because this one So here we were playing with target task name, which is this one. So here we haven't passed in the file. So let files equal that. Return result. Yeah, I was just looking to see what this was doing again. Trying to remember why there are. I don't remember what it's doing. But yes, if I come in here and I say backslash pound backslash that, okay, and then in here I'm going to do dollar file, I think is what I want to do. So then if we do this, I'll maybe set a wee breakpoint in here, see what it's doing, set a breakpoint there. As we no longer need to bootstrap modules, we can pass all args to .NET Cake or cake.exe in the build.ps1 and build.sh. That's assuming everyone uses the 1.0.0, and then, well, 1.0 will be the recommendation point release. So yes, we are making moves to making those sort of recommendations, yes. So I'm going to test this one again to make sure we didn't change anything there. So that's still target Bob with verbosity normal. That called Bob. And then up here, if we say run task and Bob, our build command at this point should be, oh, why has that got a UNC path? Don't necessarily think that's what we want. So where does files come from? Files comes from the find files. So what options do I have here when it comes to file? I would want the path, correct? I think. Rather than file here, I think what I want there is path or fs path. What's the file system path? FS path? What do we think? Have I used that anywhere else? I've used that in at least one other place. Yeah, I want to go with FS path for consistency. So let's try that again. I think I've been down that code path before. Okay. Once more. 2, 3. Run task. Run Bob. So now our build command is .NET Cake, Bill.Cake, Target Bob. Happy days. So the only thing that's really missing here from a consistency point of view is we're not allowing the setting of the verbosity when we run the cake task from the command palette rather from the code lens. So the question that I have is, should we? Should we be allowing the setting of the verbosity in the same way that we do over here? And if we should, is it wrong to just use the verbosity of the run task for the code lens? Or should we bring the verbosity out as a higher property that's used in multiple places? At the same sort of level as this. Just thinking out loud. I would not code lens setting a task. So I said a couple of things there. So what I'm wondering is whether, so right now in our package.json, and it would. So what I'm suggesting, I totally agree. I'm wondering whether we bring this out as a higher level property at, say, the task runner. No, you see, because then that's mixing. Okay. So what I think I want to add here then is another property. That's totally not what I wanted to do at all. Edit, undo. I think what I want to do then is put in verbosity normal in here. And then what I think I want to do is I want to borrow this definition and I think what I want to do is I want to borrow this. Hi Adil, how are you, sir? I think I want to borrow this and I want to find out where I find the we are doing cake things, yes. And I'm getting lost in where those things happen. I quite often get lost in this package.json file and knowing where things need to go. What we've got here is, this is the configuration node. In the configuration node we have properties. And in the properties, we have task runner, we have the bootstrapper, we have CodeLens. Well, thank you very much, Adil. Thank you for the subscription. So in the cake.codelens, we specify the default and then its properties. So the properties is where we set the verbosity and things, or the definition of what the properties are. So if we minimize that again, so in the task runner, we have a verbosity, but it doesn't have a properties section. So does that mean that we are not defining what the makeup of that object is? Or what is, are we missing that? I think we maybe are. And where did I just put that change in the package.json file? Which line did that go into? Configuration, properties, task runner, verbosity. So we did add it into the right place, but I think I'm missing the definition of what that is. But I think this should allow me to use it. So if I were to go over now to the new class, that was the extension settings. It's not a nice file to work with, is it? It's just, there's too much stuff in it sometimes. But I think what I want to do is I want to add in a new one here that is verbosity, and that's going to be a string. So what that should allow me to do is, or should I do it like this? I think I should do it like that, right? Should do it like this, I think. Right? So then in here, I should be able to add dash dash verbosity equals, let's borrow it from dash dash verbosity from there. So that's just going to be equal to $sign there, and that's going to be config dot verbosity, it says. So then if I run this, so can we still run Bill, or can we still run Bob with Bill with a verbosity of normal? Let's have a look. Oh. Activating extensions, that should then light up this. So if I run task, run Bob, I think I've still got a breakpoint. Might I remove the breakpoint? I remove my breakpoint. Always put the breakpoint back in. Ran Bob, but I don't know what it ran it with. So if I put my breakpoint back in here and I say run Bob. Have you read the Bobiverse series? I have not. What's the Bobiverse series? Sounds like something I should read. So build command is now verbosity normal. Okay, cool. So that part works. So I think I'm happy with that. So I think what I want to do, so the only other question that I had was, there was this comment here. Can I remove this? What was the concern here? Or what was What did you not like? Is there a Bob Reynolds in the Bobiverse? There should be. If there's not, there really should be. Bobiversefandom.com. Might use cookies, sure. Feels like something I need to bookmark for later. It was about whether request was really an arbitrary string or rather something else. As in whether it should be like an enumeration similar to this. It maybe absolutely should. What the right values are is what we need to look into. So, but for now, I think I want to contribute this into the PR branch that you have. Where was that? That was in here. Do this. Do that. I would go with Bobby Park. The name Bobby Park or the park? Okay, so I'm going to contribute this back to Nils's PR branch, and I think we should be good to go at that point. So I'm going to say that we are working on PH3 minor changes after testing. During stream, we tested out a few things, namely calling target Bob from Bill.cake and found this didn't work without some. Okay, so let's do this. And let's do get push. Get push. Can said Bobby's be distracted with. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. No shadow of a doubt. Okay. So we may need to add in. So there's a question over whether build script is the right terminology here. So we should answer that question now that we've got it working. So if we were to go into user settings again. So the question is, for the task runner, does the terminology of build script make sense? If it doesn't, what should it be? Something like invoke. So the potential for this is build.ps1, build.sh, .NET Cake, .NET-Cake, .NET Run, Cake Core CLR. There's lots of options in there. So if it's not build script, what should it be? Answers on a postcard, and we'll look at what everyone thinks. So I'm not sure what Mateus is suggesting there. Cake exe alias. That's a little bit. Launch command. I mean, since it's in the, if we look at the section that it's in, then task runner, would command just make sense? Invoke command, yeah, we kind of had that suggestion. Command, invoke command. Launch. I'm not sure if I like launch. I think command is better, if I'm honest. But now, looking at that code again, I'm now tempted to say that having this verbosity as run task is not required, because we're already using the task runner build script here. So I'm wondering whether we just use task runner verbosity, because task runner should have a verbosity on it now, shouldn't it? So task runner dot has its own verbosity. That would mean removing the verbosity on the code lens. I think that's a little bit cleaner. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to make some more modifications here. Oh. I think I'm okay with that. I mean, this is, I think I'd rather clean it up. I think I'm okay with that, because we're doing it. We're doing the things with the stuff. This is the opportunity to do it when we ship this release, I think. So I'm okay with doing that. I think I'm okay with that. So where we put it up was up here. So we removed that. So that should break some stuff. Where my terminal problems. There should be some problems now, I think. Or was that the only place it was used as well? If it was, then happy days. So in here, we want to minimize that one, and I want to take those out. Here, show code lens, script include, script run task. So all of this, I think, gets ED, ED. Need to modify a few things, I think. But yes, you're right. We're here in the README. We would have task provide. We need to add one in here, which is going to be cake.taskrunner.verbosity, and then borrow what we've said for not mention it, and oh, it's here. Look, take this, cut that out, that one, here. paste that. Allows you to control cake run task verbosity diagnostic. Okay. That's that there. I think that's a little bit cleaner. I think I'm happy with that. So the decision was for build script. So the debug task verbosity, I'm sort of treating that as a completely separate thing, if I'm honest, because of the way it is constructed. That is actually controlled as the way that the debug task for the code length works is it constructs the equivalent of what goes into the launch.json file. So I'm actually okay with leaving that as a standalone entity. But what is Nils saying? Probably mention verbosity in the remark on code length too. So you're referring to while the command to debug a task is configurable using the cake program setting, there is no specific setting for configuring the command to run a task. For this case, cake.taskrunner setting is used. See above. No specific setting for configuring the command. Then and it could be that you want to have different verbosity for when you're debugging compared to when you're running. So I'm okay with leaving that as a separate entity for that reason as well. But what Nils is suggesting is that here we want to add some additional information. While the command to debug a task is configurable using Cake code task program setting, there is no specific setting for configuring the command to run a task. For this, the cake.taskrunner build script is used. In addition, the verbosity of the verbosity used when running a task. Get there. Is controlled the cake.taskrunner.verbosity. Verbosity. Okay. So build script. So we currently have build script, and we want to call that just the. I'm gonna go with launch command. That was said a few times, and I think I'm okay with launch command. Launch command. I'm saying it in my head a few times. I think that's what I want to call it. So let's find all the places that we need to change it. So this here needs to change to be launch command. Copy. This here needs to be launch command. This here needs to be launch command. This here, I could probably do this with a refactoring, but I'm going to go nuts and just leave it in here. Build script settings. So that's maybe not build script settings anymore. That needs to be something like launch command settings. This here is that. This here is launch command settings. Extends the launch command. That one I can rename, so let's do that. This one here wants to be a rename of a symbol called launch command. Then this one. Then this one. And then that one. That one. Happy days. Yes, that would certainly have been an option. Default script. Where did you see default script? Oh, I see what you're saying. So it wouldn't be default script anymore. It would be default launch command now. So this one would be a rename to be default launch command. Agreed. So the search and replace. I tend to not like doing that. Just because I like to see what I don't do I wouldn't do a global search and replace without kind of looking at each individual instance of it to see what launch command, default launch command. I'm not wrong to it. I'm okay with that. So I guess we should test this again with make sure it's still working the way we want it to. So if we go back to here and say our let's come. I want to put my breakpoint in there. It was there. Breakpoint in there, and then the cake.ts. The build command is it's still there. Okay. So if I come in here and I attempt to run the task from the code lens, then our build command should be, oh, it won't be that because we changed it. So we'll have to go and update that. So in our settings.json, build script should now be unrecognized. We'll need to do a launch command instead. We save that. Then we run our task. This should now be .NET Cake, build.cake, target Bob. We run that. It runs. So you bring up a good question, Nils. The answer is, I think, no, but not yet. So so I don't know. We are going to ship a build.sh and a build.ps1 for each of the runners. So in theory, using build.sh and build.ps1 will make sense. But for those who want to not have a build.sh or a build.ps1 and just do .NET Tool Restore and .NET Cake, then I think having that option to change it makes a lot of sense. We need to document it. But I think potentially the guidance will still be to use build.ps1 and build.sh in the interim. Maybes. But we'll wait and see if anybody else chimes in on that one. So that worked. And then if I do run Bob from Bill, then .NET Cake, Bill.cake, target Bob, verbosity normal. So I see. I don't know if I agree with that though, Kim. So because in my head, so although I've said that the bootstrappers will be simple and they'll be .NET Toadstool and .NET Cake, I think the bootstrapper potentially still has a place to ensure that the required version of the .NET SDK is installed. So I still see the build.sh as potentially checking to see if the right version of .NET Core is installed, and if it's not, installing it and then running the build. So I'm debating about that part, and myself and Matthias had a conversation about this the other day, and where we would actually put the version that you how would you pin to a specific version. There was discussion about whether that should go into the cake.config file as a potential new entry, or whether we should look for a global.json file and parse the global.json file and ensure that that version is the one that's being used. But there's also no guarantee that the version of Cake that's being used is the same as the .NET Cake that's being built by the project. So there's a few kind of things in there, like having a build.ps1. So I always see. I'm with Nils on that one. But Matthias is saying I'm more and more in no bootstrapping camp. Global.json ensures right, and it ensures it, but it doesn't get you it. So again, if your project has Cake and a global.json file and the latest and greatest SKU, and me on my machine has an older version, then me just walking up to your project is going to fail. If I try and run it, it's going to break. So I would rather have, here's the entry point, build.ps1, check to see that the right required version of .NET's installed, and if it's not, it'll install it. Exactly. But if the bootstrapper put the right one on the path, then it would work for you. So I don't know. I don't know. I haven't come to a good. I haven't settled on that yet. But again, it's a case of trying to keep everybody happy. So yeah, I don't know. Haven't settled on that one yet. What did we do? Okay, so we did what we said we are going to do. Refactor, refactor configuration. Renamed build script to be launch command, and then moved verbosity or removed verbosity from CodeLens configuration in favor of higher level setting. Okay, so we did that, and we can push that. Admiring worm, that's a setting. Latest feature, let you use. Don't know. Still don't agree. Don't know. So, if that then builds, let's close out some of these and what this does. Let's get this logged in. Cake build, VS Code. Make sure this builds. If this builds, I'm going to YOLO it into the. Let's see, what are you showing here? Copy. What's Matthias showing? I bring it into the stream. So your latest feature. Use the highest installed feature band and patch level that matches the requested major and minor with a feature band and patch level that is greater or equal than the specified value. If not found, fails. That's lots of words. But that doesn't help if the OS distro you are using doesn't provide the correct MS Build version for the .NET Core version, but the project requires a higher version without actually making use of the features needed. Latest feature is 3.1. Latest patch is gotcha. Right, that's exceeded. So I'm going to say that this is good to go. I'm going to tick all the boxes again. And I'm going to say, looks good to me. Approve those changes, submit a review. And then we're going to say merge pull request. We're going to say, thank you very much. So with that, I think we have fixed both of those things. So thank you very much for that, PR Nils. I appreciate it. So that one closed as a result of that. This one got closed as well. Okay. So out of the box, well, you see, so no, I'm going to reopen this one. So it doesn't support it out of the box. And I think that's where the last part of the conversation came from, is whether it should support it out of the box. I.e., should it look for .NET Cake by default? And that's still a question mark. So I'm going to leave that one open. So the final part that needs to be made to work is the debugging of the code on the code lens. So, because that's still not working. So if I were to set a breakpoint within this script and I were to say debug task, then this, well, it might work, but we don't want it to work the way that it's doing it. So if I say debug task here, then has exited with code 1. So it's not working, but it's also doing stuff it shouldn't do. So cake debug task, this one. This one? Right, it is. Oh no, hold on. Why did that get in there without doing this? I delete that, I thought that also did a download of that. It is doing it. So how is it doing that before it gets in there? So where in this code base is it doing cake dot core CLR? Where is it that? See, we might want to remove a lot of this, or at least not call it. So the cake debug command, where are you called from? Fine. Because by default, in the new world, in the Brave New World, we're using cake dot, where we're using the .NET Global Tool version of Cake for doing debugging and for running of tasks. We don't want to download cake.core CLR now at all. So that code path to download that, we don't want it. A Slack message I want to read. So apologies for going off camera a little bit. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to mark that as unread so that I can come back to that tomorrow. Otherwise, I will forget. Okay. So if I do debug task again, I come into here. No, we don't. Is it? Install. Yeah, it is. Install cake debug command. How is it getting in there? Where are you called from? Here. Register command cake.debug. I can only assume it got in there. Well, no, that's going to be too late in the process, isn't it? So how is it calling that guy? Again, delete this. What is causing it to call that when I do this? Oh, here we go. Because of, no, that's the command. On command there. Oh, because it's calling that one, which is then coming in here, and then it's calling install cake debug command. Okay. So, question for the audience. In order for running of a task and debugging of a task to work, the Cake.NET Global tool has to be installed globally, right? That's just the way it works. So in the previous version of Cake extension, we downloaded cake.core.clr for the purposes of debugging. Am I right in saying that in the Brave New World, where we are exclusively or recommending that we use cake.global tool, am I right in saying that the Visual Studio Code extension shouldn't be responsible for doing that? Or should it be responsible for ensuring that the cake.tool is installed globally? Answers on a postcard. What are our thoughts? And should we leave in the opportunity to download the cake.core.clr version for the purpose of debugging if someone wants to debug on .NET Core 2? Again, answers on a postcard. And I shall wait for a response. Running should work regardless. No, what now? I thought what we said was. Hold on, let me confer. Let me refer to my. Let me bring this. Can you clarify debug? Yes. So we need tool. Exactly right. So that's what I wanted to confirm. So we're on the same page. So are we saying then? So okay. So let's talk about this explicitly. So right now, if I come up to here and I say cake, then we've got an install debug dependencies command. So what that does is that will download, at the minute, that will download cake.core.clr and put it into the tools folder. Are we saying that this one in the Brave New World should install cake.tool globally? Or should it, what should it do? Or do we not want or need that one anymore? Okay, so what Kim's saying, so if I've understood Kim correctly, given that we can configure the debug task, and given that we configure the run task to do stuff, having it automatically assume that we're downloading the dependencies is wrong. So we should not do that. So I agree with that. So the command there that is install debug dependencies, does that need a selector that then says, what do you want to install? Do you want to install cake.core.clr, or do you want to install .NET cake.tool globally? Okay, so I think we're on the same page then. So this one here needs to change to show two options. The default, the top one being install cake.tool globally. The second one being cake.core.clr into the tools folder. Okay, and given that the debug option, the debug task can be set, we should then not do anything. Okay, right, I think we're on the same page. In which case, in which case this one here is wrong. We shouldn't get into here. Install cake debug task command bug task. So I think we need to take this out. I think. So now if I come into here, and it's not there. So if I say I wait for this to be activated. If I say debug task, comes into here now without doing that installation, and then it will come through here. It'll set up, so this here is obviously wrong because it's not called that, or it's not going to be called that by default. Okay, and then it does the other stuff. So this is not going to work, but that's fine. Launch program does not exist, and that's fine. That makes sense. I think. Launch.json. Yes. Okay, fine. So then, in order to make it work, what I need to do is I need to change the defaults for this debug config. So currently, in my package.json file, the CodeLens debug task, which is this one, has some stuff in it. So I want to change this to not be this. I want to change this to be something else. So I'm going to change this to be I'm going to change this to be program. .NET Tools .NET Cake. Bear with me here. And then I'm going to put this in to be Windows. I'm going to put this into here. Tab this over. And this is going to be .NET Cake. .exe. Is the debug type. I believe it is used when setting stuff up. So that would be in here, I believe. No. What's that? That was here. Where was I had that file open, didn't I? That was. Oh, I've already forgotten where that was. This one. This one. I'm so lost. It is set. So I think it is. I mean, it is set. I'm going to take this part out because this actually doesn't make any sense. Okay. So having modified that package.json file to have this in it, and I have cake.net. I have the cake.net tool installed globally on my machine. If I run this, I should be able to debug this task. Maybe. If I come in here and I say debug task, then maybe it could be worked with regards to that property value. Not sure if I follow your thought process, Kim. I'm not ruling it out. I'm not sure if I follow. So here, args is that. So in theory, program is, nope, program shouldn't be that. Oh. That's why it's broken. That's why it's broken. Who do you come from? That's because that doesn't want to be that. Config dot windows. For instance, if there are 3 different values available, mono, net, core CLR, net core, and when calling the install debug tasks, it installs the necessary debug dependencies depending on the value. Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm really just testing to see if this works at the minute, Nils. This would need some refactoring, I think. So at the minute, debug on Windows has yes, and the program is still that one. So we need to handle this, I think, a little bit better. But in theory, this should now allow me to debug, he says. But it didn't. So close. I think I'm so close. I'm just looking at one that I've got over here. I think I've got .NET tool installed. Hold on. .NET tool list, I think. Global. It's out of date, but it is there. .NET tool update. cake.tool global. Where we go left? Okay, cool. Taking a long time to fail. Okay, fine. So why? Let's debug this again. I'm making the assumption that I can debug whilst debugging. I'm assuming I can. So if I hit my debug task again, then debug type is core CLR, request is launch, program is .NET Tools .NET Cake. The Windows version has a program which is .NET Cake.exe. The args should be bill.cake, fine. The task name should be Bob, fine. Debug verbosity is normal. Current working directory is maybes. Stop at entry is true. Console is internal console, and logging is fine. So that to me is very similar to one that I've used before. So .NET Cake.exe has exited with a version of 1. Okay, so let's simplify this a little bit. And let's look and see if we can just bug here then. Not gonna work, is it? I also don't have it installed. Okay, so there's some work to be done here, but we're coming to the end of the top of the hour, so I'm gonna finish off this soon. But I think I'm on the right path. I think I know what I need to do. So I will attempt to continue on with this during the week. If you find yourself at a loose end, Nils, feel free to jump in. Because the reason I say that is because I may not have a lot of time this week to continue with this, because I do need to prepare for further prepare for my .NET Conf talk that is on Thursday. So I will be presenting a talk at the .NET Conf on Cake on Thursday. So hopefully you can join in for that. I will probably be utilizing a pre-release version of this extension in that talk. But as a summary of what we've been working on tonight, we reviewed a PR from Nils for updating the or allowing the control of the launch command that is used when running a task within the Cake extension. So that was good to get in. And then we started looking in on how we can further configure the debug command so that when we either hit F5 when we have a Cake project loaded, or we run when we run the debug task from the code lens. I don't have one in here, so I can't do it from here. I think I'm on the cusp of figuring that out, so I need to dig into that a little bit, and I might have a look at it. So that would be appreciated, Nils. Let me know if you have any questions. If you do get around to it, that would be good. But for now, I think that's be done. I think so. Shameless plug. Like I say, if you haven't heard of it, .NET Conf, there's lots of information. It starts tomorrow and it runs through till Thursday. So my talk is on Thursday. So if we look at the speakers and I do a wee search here for my name, then there's me there. Oh, I thought that gave me a link to the talk, but obviously it doesn't. If I go to the agenda then and we look for in here, there we are. Piece of cake, C# powered cross-platform build automation. That is at 12:30 my time, so lunchtime for me on day 3, which is Thursday. So if you are around, feel free to come along and support, heckle, however you want to do it. And that just takes me to her. There we go. So that's all I have for tonight. I appreciate you all coming to hang out as always. She'll be back here on next Monday. No reason that it won't be. So for now, I'm going to say that's it done. So thank you very much, and I shall speak to you on the internets. Bye bye.